What's up, Film Jammers? This week we're taking a look at a topic that I get asked quite a bit. Should I create my own film studio? Is it worth it to buy the space, invest in the lights and equipment, and set it up yourself? Or is it better to rent someone else's studio? Let's find out. When I first started doing film and commercial production, finding a studio to film in seemed like one of the more difficult things to do. At the time, there were only a few professional, larger studios in town, and they charged anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a day. There were also a couple smaller studios, but they typically weren't outfitted with the best gear, or they weren't in optimal locations. I remember one smaller studio was right next to a railroad track, and every hour a train would go by, and we had to cut for 10 minutes while the train slowly rolled by. Sweating it, while the clients were looking at me like, why are we filming you, kid? So I started thinking, if these smaller studios are charging $300 to $500 a day, and the larger studios are north of $1,000 a day, is there a niche for a mid-sized studio in the area? And at the time, in Tampa Bay, Florida, where we're located, there really weren't too many other studios like that. Eventually, we started thinking about taking the plunge. If we could get even 3 or 4 clients to film in there per month, it could just about pay for itself. Now, on the flip side, if we weren't able to rent out the studio, it could become a huge overhead for us. Even for a small space in our area can be at least $3,000 a month. And that doesn't include all the gear and equipment and power you'll need to turn it into a real working studio. Now, some people might be saying, well, I only need a small space. I could do it in my house. And for a lot of smaller projects, that could work great. For some of my smaller projects, I've set up a green screen in my house, and I've also set up a white backdrop in my spare room. There's nothing wrong with using the space that you have. Hopefully your street isn't too loud and you're not near an airport, but if you have the space, why not use it to film if you're able to? Now, I think the thing that set me over the edge was I got a larger client and I started talking with them about filming, and I soon realized my home studio was not professional enough, and some of the smaller studios in the area just didn't have the amenities that the client was looking for. Like a toilet? Come on now. But for smaller projects where you don't have a client on site, or it's just for your personal project, using space in your home can be a great alternative to renting or buying a studio. I've definitely filmed a few down and dirty green screen setups in my living room for a couple of my feature films, and it worked out okay. It can work, and the budget is nice. So eventually I started outgrowing filming at my house, and some of the smaller studios in the area just didn't really have what we needed or what our clients needed. Either there wasn't enough parking, or they didn't have Wi-Fi, or they were built next to a chicken coop. Ybor City, you know. It's true. So it came down to, should we rent some of the larger studios in the area for $1,500 a day, or should we try and build a studio for our own projects? Let's check out the cons. So on the con side, the main one for us was the cost. It's a huge initial investment for 2 humble filmmakers. And number 2 is the cost, and 3, it's the cost also. Now on the pro side, 1, we could try to use it to try and land some bigger clients. If you have a nice space, you can invite them in, wine and dine them, give them some cappuccinos. Before you know it, you've got, Barack Obama sitting in your waiting room. Number 2, we could have a home, an actual place to store all of our equipment. Storing lenses in my bathroom was pretty amazing until my Rokinons fell in the toilet. 3, we could have a collaborative co-working space to work with our friends and other filmmakers. Maybe your brother's cooking pasta and your sister's lifting weights, and everybody's arguing, how are you gonna make a movie like that? You need a studio. And 4, when the studio wasn't booked for clients or commercials, we could use it to film our own projects. And I think that last one is what really tipped the scale for us. We wanted to do film projects. We wanted a place to make films, and this would be our bridge to Terabithia. So after a lot of deliberation, we decided to give it a go. And it was probably the scariest thing we ever did. Signing on the dotted line for a lease for a huge chunk of money. You don't know what's gonna happen. It'll make your teeth fall out. All right, well, if you are actually thinking about opening up your own studio, let me give you some tips that helped us get our studio up and running. Network with other filmmakers and photographers. Ask other filmmakers or photographers what studios they're using. Now, if you're in a larger city with a lot of studios like LA or New York, this might not apply as much. But if you're in a smaller market, there might not be a lot of options. If you let other filmmakers or photographers know that you're opening a studio, it could attract some business. I tried to make our studio space a place for filmmakers and also for commercial productions so that we could diversify a bit. Network with folks who may need a place to shoot. When my friends found out we had a studio, they wanted to come and help support us. But having a place that was made for filmmakers by filmmakers kind of gave us an edge over the larger corporations and larger studios. We have so much money. Don't go it alone. When we started the studio, my friend and longtime collaborator went in on it together. We split the workload of building the studio, which can be quite an undertaking, and also split the financial load of buying lights and C-stands, etc. Here's a couple quick unforeseen expenses to keep in mind. We had an air conditioning unit that was very loud. We had to replace it and fix it. When we came in and saw the space, it was quiet, but when we realized that there were lawn people and delivery trucks, we had to soundproof it so that we were able to film in there during the day and not have to cut 20 times. Simple things like having enough C-stands and sandbags and apple boxes and things that clients expect when they rent a studio are things that you need to invest in. And I didn't really think too much about that. So make sure you have all that gear. Power. This might not be something you think of immediately when you're designing your studio, but you're gonna need a lot of power for those lights and a lot of other equipment that studios often have. Air conditioning. These things take up tons of power, and if you don't have it set up right, you can blow breakers, and it can really impact your studio negatively. A lot of clients expect 3-phase power when they go into a studio. At least have enough power to get through a shoot with the lights that you need. So having a partner to get through that with and get through those tough times can be a big help. It's also just nice to have a second opinion and someone to bounce ideas off of. So if you have a partner in your project, it can really be good. Plan to have a little extra space. For us, we plan to have 2 extra spare offices in our studio when we started it. For the first few years, we rented these offices out to other filmmakers and friends. This enabled us to have some extra cash coming in to pay the bills. And then when we had more business coming in later, we were able to use these offices to expand into and grow the business. So a little extra space up front can go a long way to helping you grow your studio. Everywhere is filmable. We've had a lot of different requests for filming locations from clients, everything from meeting rooms to hospitals to office space. So we've tried to utilize all the little nooks and crannies in our studio as potential filming locations. We've turned our makeup room into a hospital room. And we've turned my office into a corporate boardroom. Use the resources you have and the space you have to give clients options. Instead of filming in and renting an actual warehouse space, we cleared out the back studio space and use our loading dock door as a makeshift warehouse door. With a little creativity, you can create a variety of locations in your studio and offer these to potential clients as filming locations. And when you do these shoots, post these pictures on your website so others can see how you've transformed your space. I think this is a great way to attract people to your studio and customers. All right, well, I hope this video on creating your own studio was helpful. If you're thinking about taking the plunge to open your own studio, what's motivating you or what's holding you back? Let us know down in the comments. I'm Christian with Film Jams. Make sure to like and subscribe for new videos every Tuesday. Yeah, Mom, I'll be home in a minute. Yeah. Okay. I love you too. And Friday. And this would be our Bat Cave. Our Tatooine. No, or Dantooine. I think that reference works. It's run it by the Star Wars trivia folk.